All right. So habeas corpus. You better take it out to the movies because it's going to be gone soon. White House actively looking at suspending habeas corpus in immigration crackdown. So this is Stephen Miller, who, look, man, if this country ever rediscovers its equilibrium and its justice system, this guy's going to prison. But in happier days for him today, before his jail time in the future, this is what he had to say about the habeas corpus that in the future he may not be able to avail himself of.
Hold on, there's a question back there first.
Wait, Pandey, I have two quick questions. First, President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen, do you think?
Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land, that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at. Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch, the courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, yes.
Mr. Miller.
A writ of habeas corpus compels authorities to produce an individual they are holding and to justify their confinement. It's been a key avenue migrants have used to challenge pending deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, a rarely used 18th century power Trump cited to deport Venezuelan nationals he's accused of being gang members to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador. It's also been how recently detained students such as Rumesa Ozturk and Mahmoud Khalil have challenged their detention. The Constitution says habeas corpus may not be suspended, quote, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Steve Vladek, a national security law expert who teaches at Georgetown University, said that requirement is key. Quote, this last part is not just window dressing. Again, the whole point is that the default is for judicial review, except when there is a specific national security emergency in which judicial review could itself exacerbate the emergency. The emergency itself isn't enough, he wrote on his blog. So, in theory, based on what he's saying, even if they could demonstrate an emergency, they'd have to demonstrate it's an emergency that judicial review would thwart their ability to address. Miller also doesn't deign to mention that the near universal consensus is that only Congress can suspend habeas corpus. The writ of habeas corpus has been suspended only 4 times, according to the National Constitution Center. During the Civil War, in parts of South Carolina overrun by the Ku Klux Klan during Reconstruction, in 2 provinces in the Philippines in 1905, and in Hawaii after the bombing at Pearl Harbor. Quote, if Donald Trump can sweep non citizens off the street and fly them to a torturer's prison in El Salvador with no due process, he can do it to citizens too. Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, said last week, quote, because if there is no due process, no fair hearing, you have no opportunity to object. So now, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this now? Why are they bringing up habeas corpus now? This has been the pattern with this administration, and this has been the strategy. They've decided, given that there are pretty strict legal constraints against most of what they want to do, and by nature of the fact that the country was born in a rebellion against highly centralized authority, and the Constitution is structured around avoiding that kind of concentration of authority, but they want that kind of concentration of authority. They apparently decided they're going to rule by decrees of emergency, of invasion, these very rare cases and stipulations that would allow you to slip the bounds of these constitutional strictures and these congressional oversight and judicial oversight. We see it with the arrest of the mayor in New Jersey, the threat to arrest the Congress people, claims of threat to safety. They'll just claim some kind of legal justification where there is none. So the reason I think now they're talking about habeas corpus is because they're losing in the courts on the Alien Enemies Act. Two more judges blocked Trump administration's use of Alien Enemies Act to remove certain migrants. All right, so they can see the writing on the wall. They're even getting ruled against by Trump appointees on this interpretation of the Alien Enemies Act and the claim that Trenda Aragua is an invading force. We've seen intelligence leaks over the last week or two that the intelligence community does not believe that there's any coordination between the Venezuelan government and Trenda Aragua, something that Tulsi Gabbard was very upset about, seeing that leaking rather
Well, 3 different leaks going back months, yeah.
Yeah, rather than that the Constitution is being shredded by the administration. That doesn't seem to bother our new national intelligence director. But yeah, they could see the writing on the wall, as the article said. It is through habeas corpus that they are challenging these detentions. So now, if the courts are going to strike down the use of the Alien Enemies Act, well, now they have to find a way to completely get around habeas corpus. So, once again, as is their pattern, they're going to claim an emergency. Look, the Constitution has already been broken. Trump had no right to impose unilateral tariffs. He did that by claiming there's an economic emergency. And he went on to say that the emergency goes back to 1935. That's not an emergency. That's
Right.
not an emergency by definition. So we've already met the constitutional crisis and failed because you have a Congress that is completely compliant and will not exercise its congressional prerogative to stop him from enforcing these tariffs. Now, a lot of states are suing, and given the way things have been playing out in the courts so far, he'll probably lose. I mean, most of these things he's doing, it seems like even conservative judges see the danger of opening this door, because what happens when the opposition is in power? Even if you like the policies he's enacting, you're completely tearing down all of the checks and balances that the system is supposed to be predicated on. It seems that he'll probably lose on the tariffs too, but they seem to have proceeded on the basis, well, by the time that would happen, all the negotiations are going to be over, and they're right. Like, how long is it going to take for these state lawsuits to wind their way through the courts? All of this is going to long be resolved by then. So you basically have a lawless administration that is just doing whatever it can get away with and seeing what the courts rule against. And then when they rule against it, ignore it, or find a way around it, or find another pretext to do what they want.
Yes. And, obviously, Barack Obama suspended habeas corpus, which Chris Hedges, sued him over with the indefinite detention. And so, yeah, one thing paves the way for the next. It's a question of at what point does the government just take restraint out of its vocabulary altogether? right? At what point do they push it to the point where everybody is actually in their crosshairs?
Right.
And you just don't know. This administration has made very little effort to comfort people in that way, to put it mildly. And so, yeah, it's obviously a very scary thing, and it's a result of them, as you said, I think you're right, losing in court. You know, as Trump's approval rating continues to go down, and as these losses in the courts rack up, you know, they're likely to get more authoritarian, not less, because it's the only way they know to fight back. So, you know, this is going to be a real test of the system in that way. And so, you know, it's something that people have to be ready for, because, yes, it is absolutely a terrifying thing. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. It's a very, very scary time for a number of reasons on a number of fronts, including this one. I mean, habeas corpus is in the Magna Carta. I mean, you're talking about pre-Constitution. I mean, you're talking about, you know, a precedent, you know, going back 800 years. You know, some might argue it's a pillar of Western civilization, which the Trump base seems to love so much, right?
Yeah, until they don't. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's not about the immigrant.
Right.
So you hate the immigrant, you don't care about the immigrant. It's not about that. It's about you. It's about you. It's about if they can do it to them. Raskin, we're not fans of Raskin either, but you know, stop clock twice a day and all. Yeah, man, that's what it's all about. Once they get rid of habeas corpus, and you combine that with the Patriot Act, yeah, they could grab anybody and send them anywhere. Who's going to stop them?
That's right.
Please clap.